Welcome back to the In the Company of Friends podcast. I'm your host, Adam Alloway. Today we are joined by the Department Chair of the Theology Department here at Assumption University. He received his bachelor's degree at St. Mary's of the Woods College in Theology and his PhD at Boston College. And he was also my Intro to Theology teacher as well. Please welcome Professor Ty Monroe. Thank you, Professor Monroe, for joining me today. It is Friday.
Thank you for
It
having
is
me.
Friday. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
So today we're here to talk about, so a couple episodes ago I met with Dean Trepanier.
Good.
We talked about a Catholic liberal arts education, and we focused more on the liberal arts side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you being the head of the theology department, and I took your class last semester with theology. I thought that you were a perfect professor to call you in and tell me about the Catholic side of Catholic liberal arts. So that's why I called you here today.
Oh, that's great. I'm really honored that you asked me to be here, Adam. I really enjoyed having you in my class, and I very much appreciate the compliments. If I'm doing a good job, it's just that I'm doing a good job of mediating a lot of really good texts and facilitating good dialogue. We had a really good group. I think we had some good discussions, and obviously we read some great texts, which we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
Why reading great texts is an important part of Catholic liberal education, and doing that in the company of friends is important. And also to maybe talk about one or two of those texts that we read. So there's a lot of directions you could go with what makes a Catholic liberal education distinct. Obviously, liberal education it's free and it's freeing. I'm sure you talked about that with Dean Trepanier, and I'm sure he did a fantastic job, better than I could, to talk about the question from that perspective. I think there's a few things that I would say. There are many things, but I think there'd be a few things I'd focus on in terms of what makes a Catholic liberal education unique. One would be the Catholicity involved in grounding oneself in a particular tradition. By tradition, I mean in the broadest sense. So Catholic institutions have, for a long time, I mean, you could argue that the modern Western university was sort of started by the Catholic Church. It was started by centers of learning in the Middle Ages. So it's grounded in, of course, certain fundamental teachings, Catholic doctrines, and the ongoing tradition of official, what we sometimes call magisterial teaching, and that's a really important part of it. But that tradition is also broad enough to include, like, Augustine's Confessions and major thinkers, major texts, and also major questions that there's consistent answers. Sometimes those answers might have some degree of development or whatever, but there's also a consistent series of kind of questions and answers about what it means to be human, what it means to be happy and live a flourishing life. And I think a Catholic understanding of the liberal arts does what a lot of other liberal arts curricula and institutions do.
I would agree, yeah.
Right? But it also says it's integral to be a part of this particular tradition, this body of teaching, this broader set of texts and figures and questions, and also be open to the idea that liberal education, while it includes a lot of other humanities and natural sciences and other disciplines, is also open to the question of God and the question of the transcendent and the humanities search for meaning within this life and maybe even beyond. So I think that's an important part too.
So obviously when kids go and apply for schools and stuff, and you have state schools, community colleges, liberal arts schools, Catholic liberal arts schools and stuff, under a Catholic liberal arts school, for more beyond the learning aspect of it, the social aspect of it, where does Catholic liberal arts, focusing on the Catholic part of it, come into play when you look at it from like a social standpoint with the students? How maybe the curriculum or events that the campus provides or whatever, how does that foster a better friendship? How does that foster a better social sphere?
It's a good question. I'd say at least in two major directions, optimally. And I think we're working at getting better at both of these. We've got some room to grow. We've got a decent track record on some fronts. I mean, one way to think about it is to use the Latin phrases ad intra and ad extra. So ad extra would be like from the institution, from the student and faculty and staff body, that community out to the broader community, and that ad intra would be sort of within that community. And I think Catholic schools have had a good track record in serving the community. So service has a social component too, right? Like, so can the institution extend the search for truth, ultimately for many, from the Catholic identity, the love of God and neighbor, can that extend to the community? That's social. And again, we're working to continue to grow that here with community engaged learning and Professor Lucenow and others. And then there's the ad intra, right? So how can, and I think they're inextricably related, right? How can a campus and a community, a body of people, promote good, transformative friendship in the classroom, right? Among students, between students, and then faculty and staff, among faculty and staff colleagues and administrators and things like that. And I think the Catholic understanding of what it means to be human is integral to that, right? So optimally, you're fostering friendship in service to seeking the truth, right? And in seeking the truth, you're growing a sense of community and friendship. And I think those things, I don't know if I answered your question well, but we could talk a little bit about like sort of a broadly Catholic understanding of like what it means to be human and why social bonds and friendship are integral to that. But I think that would be where I would go.
Yeah. Like I guess like a question that many people, well, including me, on the search for colleges and stuff, right? Why does it even, you could say, why does it even matter? What's the significance of it? It's more than just writing saying Catholic liberal arts, right? It's a more deeper understanding of that. What does it even, like, what's even the point, right? What's even the point of going down the Catholic route? What's the point of having all this? And similar to what you just said, that student-faculty relationship, that society relationship, is that office hours being available frequently? Is that smaller classrooms, professors like you, easily to reach? I can walk in the office if I have a question to ask, taking the time. We just grabbed lunch the other day, and we talked about this. Right. Is it the availability and maybe the willingness on the professor's side to really to really extend out and go the extra step?
No, that's good. I mean, everything you said was great, but it's sort of a lot of neurons firing in different directions. So let me try to take a few of them severally, and maybe we can think about how they connect. So, I mean, listen, I think friendship of sort of, approaching the highest order, if you're thinking about levels of friendship, Aristotelian friendship, right? But pleasure, utility, and friendship in the good. We can maybe talk about that later. Good, real substantive friendship happens, I think, at every campus, right? Every campus worth its salt, right? Its weight in salt. And I think, our community is made up of Catholic individuals, but not everyone here is Catholic. Not every faculty member, certainly not every student. And yet I think that in our best moments, the Catholic understanding of what it means to be human helps to create a broader framework and a broader ethos. It's almost like an intangible thing, right? That I think many students, when they come and even when they maybe visit, like they do a Hound for a day or whatever, they leave like sensing that, like that sense of welcoming,
fostering, like that sense of
exactly. And I think it's easy to sort of mistake that sort of just niceness or politeness for politeness sake, which that can happen, right? I think what students often leave here after spending a day here feeling is like, people really care about me here. So how is that distinctively Catholic? Well, it's not exclusively Catholic, right? People care about each other all around the world and in institutions and in just in life, right? But if you think, as the Catholic worldview teaches one to think, if you think that humans are dignified just by existing, right? They're made in the image and likeness of God. They are made in the image of a God who is in some sense personal and relational. God is 3 in 1, right? And God creates humanity for the purpose of communion and friendship. Aquinas says this pretty clearly, and other major thinkers in the tradition say this. So if you think that humans are everyone deserves equal dignity and respect, even if you disagree with them, right? Everyone deserves the chance to seek the truth and to find that in the company of friends, meaning through friendship and through community, because of something that's woven into their very existence from their Creator. And in fact, you think that it's in the purpose of having an institution of learning is to be formed in the truth and be formed in virtues, intellectual, moral, social virtues, and everyone should have the chance to do that. All the more reason to try to create an institution where the ethos, the framework, the intangibles, on the whole, foster that or provide for that kind of I don't want to say sentiments, maybe too weak of a word, right? But I guess ethos is the strongest word.
And it's about everybody. It's universal, right?
Yes.
It's you don't have to be Catholic to draw draw all this, right? You don't have to. You can be from anywhere, anytime, and it's universal. And I think that's what I like about it, right? I like to be welcomed. Not because you go to a Catholic liberal arts school, like all the kids there are Catholic. That's not true. But they live in this society. So, like, from a student standpoint, where does that fall in? Well, obviously, the Civic Friendship Program helps me a bunch, interacting and kind of getting knocking down some social barrier walls, kind of reaching out, listening into discussions and asking educated people like yourself. So then maybe it's more easier for the students to kind of grasp it. I want
to ask you a question about that. So it seems to me that there's a kind of mean between, a middle ground between extremes that would be, if not ideal, it would be uniquely important, right? Maybe it is ideal. But one way to think of it would be to say, like, if you have an institution of learning where the sort of unique particular identity of a particular tradition becomes, I don't want to say an end unto itself, but it really is the dominant factor. That could be good, right? I think people you can foster learning and friendship and the search for truth. It might become sectarian in the sense that people who are not coming from that tradition don't feel that sense of like they're also part of the conversation. But I wonder too if it might be possible on the other end of the spectrum to say, well, if an institution has no sense of its own tradition or its own particularity, where it's coming from, what are its guiding principles, then weirdly could it also be the case that also kind of leaves little space for like genuine inquiry and genuine dialogue and genuine, maybe genuine's too strong of a word, but like
unguided.
Right. In a weird way, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think it's fair to say that some middle ground would be saying you have to come from somewhere, right? You have to recognize that there's a tradition that frames and guides a curriculum, on institutions, even our policies,
a foundation.
Exactly. And so it can and should be open, but not so undefined that openness, fails to provide a starting point, and a framing for the dialogue. I don't know if that, does that
sure,
make sense?
So if assumption is a Catholic liberal arts school, we've already gone over that, and the population is small compared to schools.
Compared to some, but there are much smaller schools.
There are much smaller. So roughly 2,000, right around that ballpark. And you could say it's more of a guided learning experience, but also obviously you have all the freedoms to go and interact. What first comes to mind after you said that is maybe a state school that has 10,000 kids. And it's more like 10,000 kids is really hard to all guide and push kind of one kind of fostering like societal like I don't know collaboration, right? I think that if you have 10,000 kids and maybe it's a non-Catholic school, you're gonna get all those questions. You're gonna get those searches for truth in a different route. In a different route, but sometimes it could be the same route. So I'll take it from my standpoint. Going here, I have more of a, I think educated, and maybe the reason why I say educated is because I can get that information so readily available. I can, if I have a question about theology, or if I have a question about maybe a question, like any question, I can go to you and ask you. And I think that's what, and I know Dean Trepanier said something similar. If you're at a very bigger school, or the resources are limited to reach out to educated people because they really are the people you're learning from, but also learning from yourself.
Yeah.
I think you run into some struggle. I think if you're getting guided, whether if it's by smaller classrooms or stuff, or if it's a bigger atmosphere, bigger lecture halls, I think that path or that guiding hand is going to be a little bit more difficult.
I think it probably can be.
Yeah.
I would say a couple things in response to that. One would be that I think pretty much every institution has its virtues, right? Pretty much every institution has its strengths. There are things that a bigger institution can do, maybe that an institution like Assumption or a smaller institution can't do.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go down the rabbit hole of what those might be. Conversely, we have things that we can do. But I think one of the other things is yes, it's our overall size, and yes, it is our grounding in this shared Catholic liberal arts identity. Again, faculty and staff and students who are and who are not Catholic are still shaped by that, almost regardless of their own particular, or they have the opportunity to be shaped by that if they want to be. But I think the other thing too is, and you're kind of alluding to this, or you're kind of getting close to it, is just the ratio, right? We don't run big classes very often. Even our biggest classes are lectures, maybe in the natural sciences, that even that is paired with a smaller lab group, right? So it's both a procedural, structural, just the policy. We don't run big sections. And then it's also the kind of people that we've, I think, done a pretty good job hiring, right?
Sure, I
faculty
would agree,
and staff who they go the extra mile. They just do. Not everyone's perfect, but by and large, my colleagues, faculty and staff alike, tend to go the extra mile. And I think we have students. I mean, I talk to people. I'm a professional nerd. I have friends who are professional nerds at many other institutions, and they ask me like, what are Assumption students like? And one of the main things I always kind of harp on is like, they're like real people who are like, sometimes you have to kind of crack that outer shell of like lack of confidence or maybe shyness. Sometimes less with you, which is good. But they want to learn, or at least they're open to the possibility that they might want to learn. It might be a hard sell with theology.
A little like spark, like a little something. Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say, there tends to not be a sense of entitlement or pretentiousness or whatever that, sometimes here and there. But there's a kind of realness to my engagement with students, and I've been here. It's my 9th year, and I would say that's been true across the board. So
I would agree.
It makes friendship, right? We're talking about friendship a little bit here. It makes friendship with students a genuine possibility.
Yeah.
But again, it's a two-way street.
So talking about friendship and the book I have here, The Confessions. I'm pretty sure every Assumption student,
everyone has to read some of that book. Yeah.
Exactly. So why? I know why. I took your class. You did a very good job explaining why this book is even important to talk about, right?
Yep.
But for all the kids, right, that, like, I know the reason, and I have my opinions, whatever. But to somebody that is just, all right, I got to get this book. It's free in the library. I'm going to go down and get it.
Yep.
Just for my class, right? And I'm going to read it, right?
Yep.
But it's just a book that I have to read. Yep. Why is this book specifically chosen to kind of foster the idea of Assumption's understanding of friendship?
Yeah, great question. One of the answers stems from something we've already touched on, which is you have to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's thrown into this world, to use a 20th century philosophical idiom. We're thrown into existence. We're thrown into the world. It can be a bad thing, but there's a goodness to that in the sense that, like, well, on the one hand, we come from somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it can feel absurd to be thrown into the world. On the other hand, we can discover what's already there, right? And that's what traditions do. So the tradition here is, it's not only just Catholic in the broadest sense of Roman Catholic, it's also Augustinian.
Yeah.
The order that was founded in the mid-19th century by Father Dalzon, the Assumptionists, or the Augustinians of the Assumption, they're the ones whom we have to thank for starting this institution. We stand on their shoulders, right? And so just on that level, like, okay, we owe something to that tradition, not just like we're paying it back, but we owe recognition. There's something here, right? These the people in this order, and in fact also if you think of the Religious of the Assumption, the sisters as having an integral role with the institution in the history too. These individuals saw something in the life and the writings and the thought world of St. Augustine, his worldview, and they had the idea of starting this institution, and we benefit from that. There's got to be something there. So just from the jump, that seems important. And I think if you dig deep a little further, St. Augustine is kind of a lodestar. He's kind of a guiding light for many Catholic institutions. You have Jesuits who look to St. Ignatius of Loyola and many other important Jesuit figures. You have Dominican schools or Benedictine schools. My brother-in-law teaches at a Benedictine. And they each have their own kind of unique thing. We call them charisms in the Catholic lingo. Augustine's one of the great sort of guiding lights for Catholic education, because he thought a lot about not just learning and intellectual propositional knowledge. He was a smart guy. He knew a lot of things. But he thought about education as kind of like the formation of a person, like the formation and the shaping.
Rather than just a bachelor's degree.
Rather than just a credential. Rather than just checking a box. Rather than just a piece of paper. Rather than just something that says I can work at this corporation, right? Which is great. It's good to have that, right? He thought about it as sometimes in counterproductive ways. He talks about his own education as being somewhat counterproductively forming him. But education shapes what we know, but it also shapes how we know, like how we think about the world, what kind of questions we think are worth asking, what kind of answers are even possible. But it also shapes like our desires and how we choose and our habits. And he talks, beautifully about that. And he talks about how friendship plays a role in that. How you actually kind of can't do that alone. He might have thought early in his writing career that you kind of could do it alone a little bit. He's actually got a text called The Soliloquies where it's just him kind of talking to himself, although he's talking to his rational mind. And I'm not saying he abandoned that thought, but I think over time he came to realize a little bit more and more how important friendship was to the search for truth and the search to becoming sort of the best version of myself that I could become, and the best version of himself that he thought he was still becoming when he wrote that book.
So basically, meaning it takes two to really,
or more,
two or more to really get to that endpoint, that search for knowledge. And in the process of searching for knowledge, obviously having a friend or multiple friends, and I think that could look like a study group, right, at its simplest form. You have a group of 4 kids or more or less, and I'm a finance major, and if I had 4 kids that I worked with in the library constantly searching for information, or really, maybe it's not searching for information, but maybe searching for the means to understand the information. And I think that's what happens to me most of the time. It's not necessarily, I'm only a freshman, but it's not necessarily the search for something. Not yet, but it's more of the search to understand something. And maybe once that's accomplished, you can search for more information.
Well, I would say that's a really great way to put it, Adam, and I'm glad that you sort of broadened, not that you were necessarily needing to correct yourself, but you broadened it to say, well, it's not just I'm looking for information. I'm looking to find us maybe a set of skills, right? I would go even deeper. I would say that in education, in its best sense, as the search for truth, we're looking for whatever truth we can find. But I think in that process, we're also looking for the truth of ourselves. We're looking to discover who we really are. And another way to put that is whom we're becoming. We're looking to find what would the best version of me be? And that's a journey, that's a process, and that's especially if you think about education as, again, formation seems like I'm doing something to someone or something. Maybe I'm doing it to myself, or the institution is forming me. That's I think there's something to that. But discovery is also part of it, because I'm in that. I'm discovering, well, what do I want to be?
Who are you?
Right. Who am I? What do I really care about? And what should I care about more in the future than I do now? What should I care less about? So that interplay between sort of forming myself and discovering myself, well, all the more reason that you can't do it alone. Like if learning is just a transaction between me and some source of information, well, I'm just trying to fill up the tank with more information. But if education is self-discovery, self-formation, all the more reason I need others, right, because I need others to help me recognize things in me
So
and me and them that I don't yet know or see. In the world too, right?
Is it a friend holding you accountable?
I think that's part of it, yeah.
Do you think that's part of it? Because I think that friendships, especially now in college, like I've been friends with my college for friends with the kids that I surround myself with here for a decent amount now. 6 to 8 months roughly. And it's more of not just we're all on the same page, right? It's more of improvising and what collectively we want together.
There's not a clear roadmap all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want it to be clear. And some people do. Education-wise, I want my road to be straightforward. But socially, I want to see what everybody else wants to do, because I think that, my group of friends shape everybody differently, and I think collectively it's better for all parties involved.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know if my language of sort of self-discovery and sort of mutual recognition, does that ring true in your own experience? That and I think accountability, right? That's one part of that. Yeah. So accountability is someone reflecting you back to you, right? Someone saying, I know you think you're doing well here, or you told me you want to become or do X. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm seeing that. Yeah. So that's one very concrete way that a friendship allows someone else to reflect you back to yourself, so that you can form/discover who you are becoming, right? But do you see any other ways in which friendship helps you recognize the best version of yourself through and in the other person, and then vice versa?
I would say yes, because I think it's important to talk about morality in that context. Yep. I think that if my group of friends go out, right, and go out like exploring, or go out maybe to Worcester or Boston, or maybe whatever, I think it's important to question one's morality in the sense of, if you're hanging out with say you've gone out with your main group of friends and you've tacked on a couple more kids, right? I think keeping each other in check morally is important. But what I draw from my friendships is an internal sense, right? It's an internal prosperity and an internal kind of, like you could say, kind of moving forward. It's the ship going forward. It's kind of like
people rowing together.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it.
And it's
right?
one ship.
Right. It's gotta. So it seems to me one way to think about this is that, like, it's just too hard for any individual person to, like, figure out the truth of things. And figure out who they want to be. Like, sort of like why we think democracy or representative government is good, because, like, you need more perspectives, right? Same thing in any discipline. You need other eyes on the data, or on the report, or on the analysis of the data, or on the article or the book chapter or whatever. More hands on deck can tend to bring more insight, right? So there's that part of it. But I also think too, in Aquinas, and to some degree building on Aristotle, but Aquinas and others talk about friendship as he calls it a kind of communication, and that seems like a very sterile word, but the Latin there, means something a little bit more like a kind of interweaving of people's, lives, right? Communication in willing the good for other people. So it's not just, hey, we need more perspectives on the question, like how should we do this? And morality is one way. Like, it's complex sometimes, right? There's gray, or it's hard to see what we should and shouldn't do sometimes, even if we have clear moral principles. But it's not maybe even just that sort of like, we need more eyes on this project. It can also be that, like, the investment of desire and will and commitment that friendship provides, it almost shapes us in ways that you couldn't just reduce to new bits of information. Yeah. Right? And that's where I guess I think that idea of, like, mutual recognition and self-giving of oneself. You talk about the way that you think professors here, they shape students by just being available, right? Yeah. That's not always just like providing more information, like give me more answers to the quiz or whatever. There's something almost intangible about that giving of time and energy and of self, and students do for professors, right? That it's almost it's not quantifiable, but it's real.
And it's not a kind of like a unwanted. It's a different sense, right? Because in high school, if I need to go meet with my teacher, it's usually like after school because the grade's low.
I failed and I need to retake.
And then it's kind of like I got to be here,
right?
And then you have the other side of it where it's like if a teacher asks me to do something, it's more of a favor. It's more of a it's not. It doesn't feel much that mandatory, right? It's hard to explain, but if I go and ask you a question, in preparatory for my theology exam, right? It's like, it's not like Professor Monroe, like, I need the questions, like, can you please help me?
You,
and then
owe me this because your contract does it right,
Or you're like, Adam, you need to learn this because this is my class. It's not like that. It's a little bit different. It's more of, do you think you could help me out with this? Like, and then you're like, sure, like I'll help you out. It's more of a voluntary kind of reach out for help. It's a personal.
Right. And this stems back to something that we talked about at lunch the other day. It's kind of like becoming I'm thinking about writing a piece on education on this front, especially right now with the challenges of artificial intelligence and LLMs and things like that. Seeing learning and the search for truth in conjunction with or as of a piece with friendship is really helpful, I think, because it helps us to try to stop seeing education as a transaction. Yeah. And see it more as a process of transformation. And not just for the student. Yeah. For the professor, for the teacher, for the staff member, for the faculty member. Friendships are not transactional. And I don't just mean like you don't keep score. Like if I give you a ride, you and I are first years, you don't have a car and I do. I give you a ride to shops at Blackstone and then I say to you next time, like, hey, you want to pick up my lunch? Like, Yeah. It's not, real friendships don't do that because you don't keep score. Yeah. But it's also not merely transactional because even when there is a kind of transaction, I have something you need. Yeah. Right? If we were just, friendships in utility, like Aristotle's second level, that would be the sum total of it. But if a friendship in utility starts to get closer to the blurry line between it and friendship in the good, then really the transaction is more than just I'm helping you, but we're being shaped in our mutual goodwill and seeking of the good and becoming the best versions of ourselves. We're being transformed even by our actions that we just like doing and things that we might need to help each other utility-wise. It's transformative. So it shapes us. Education, I think, is in its best moments is like that.
I would agree. What is the line? What is So transactional, right? So I'm just going to try and think from my experience. If I have a friend, right, or maybe it's not a friendship, maybe it's a mutually beneficial transaction of some sort.
Friendship of utility. Yep.
Can you drive me to the gym, and then next week I'll drive you. You know what I mean? And it's not like hanging out and doing other things. Yeah. What is that line does that define just a transactional relationship from a friendship, or is that just a lower level of friendship?
Yeah, and I think if memory serves me, I think I got the order right. So I think for Aristotle, it's actually friendship of utility is actually the lower one, and the second one is either way, right? Friendship of pleasure. But you could sort of say like insofar as neither of them would be friendship in the good. It doesn't really matter the ranking so much because you could have ones kind of go back and forth. Here's what I would say, and I'm no expert in the Nicomachean ethics or in Aristotle more generally, but I would say that I don't think that levels or kind or maybe categories of friendship are like distinct and mutually exclusive. I actually think that like when you reach friendship in the good, which is the kind of friendship that Aquinas, when he talks about friendship in his Summa Theologiae, and ultimately wants to talk about humanity's the possibility for humanity to have friendship with God. Yeah. That's what he thinks he actually thinks it's the best way of defining the highest virtue, which is love. Yeah. Which God literally is, according to the Christian tradition, right? According to Scripture. But that friendship in the good, I don't think it doesn't not include pleasure. So it's just not mere pleasure, right? We're just not getting together so we can have a fun and rowdy time. Yeah. It doesn't exclude utility, right? The best form of friendships, you do things for you. There is a usefulness of that friendship. It's just that those things aren't an end to themselves. Yeah. They are in service of us both seeking the good and us seeking the good for and with one another. So I think that the lines are blurry for a reason, because ultimately the highest form of friendship includes those other two lower forms of friendship in the best way possible.
Yeah. So to sort of wind it down and kind of get back to a more modern standpoint, true friendship, in the most simplest terms. Obviously, Aristotle's 3 levels of friendship.
Yep.
Is a great, just a great.
Yeah, it's super useful.
Sure.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
But from a basic understanding of no philosophy, no theology, no theories of friendship. That some students like myself prior to coming here, and I'm still in the search of the real understanding of friendship and stuff like that. Prior to this, like I was just like, friendship is just a guy that like somebody hang out with.
Yeah.
In simple terms, maybe to somebody that I was very fortunate. I found my group of people.
Yeah.
Maybe to somebody that still is searching for their group of people, or maybe doesn't know if they want to search, or maybe if they don't have the motivation to search. Because I do proudly believe everybody can be friends with anybody. You know what I mean? Like in the right context, like everybody should be able to find somebody similar to them, right? What is true friendship in a modern sense?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's tough in the sense that I'm not sure. Not just because I can't go back before I read any philosophy or theology and pretend like I don't know those things, but also because I don't think nobody has no philosophy or theology. I don't mean there's nobody who hasn't read any formal philosophy or theology.
Yeah.
But if philosophy and theology, just like other disciplines in the humanities and the social sciences that are adjacent to theology and philosophy, just as they address fundamental questions that all humans have to ask, everyone kind of has an implicit life philosophy, or everyone has an implicit posture or perspective on the question of God or transcendence, and everyone has an implicit posture on the question of what it means to be human and all these other things. So I would say a lingo free, a jargon free. Man, you didn't prep me for this one at the launch. I would say true friendship is genuine recognition of and mutual concern for others and for them and them for you. And it sounds a little bit sterile and a little bit generic.
Yeah.
But I think if you unpack it and you dig into it, you could take a friendship that you have and think about concretely how that friendship has unfolded, where it has been, where it is, and where it might go, and you could say, do we really have mutual? Do we really see each other? Do we really recognize each other?
Yeah.
And do we care?
Values.
Well, you can have friendship even when you don't share. It's hard to have friendship when you have no shared values.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, you value the other and you actually want what's best for them.
Yeah.
And that's actually what allows you to have friendship through and across differences, right? Is that you could say, well, we might disagree on how to get there, but we both want what's good. We both agree that there is growth to be had. There's truth to be known. There's good to be pursued. And I want that for you, even if we disagree about how you're going at it or you disagree about how I'm going at it. But yeah, I think mutual recognition, being able to really see and be seen by another person, that's grounded in genuine care and genuine desire for the good of the other person. And I'm just cribbing Aquinas there. But it's not jargony, right? It's a pretty straightforward.
And I would agree. To
wrap, you have to tell me your definition. You asked me mine.
My definition of true friendship, and I think it's very plain to see in college, is I live an hour and a half away, and there's kids that are from Worcester, the surrounding towns. They dorm here, right? So let's just say moving in freshman year. True friendship right now in my life is kind of people to go to. And what I mean by that is if I'm home, my parents are there, right? My family's there, right? And they're only an hour and a half away. Yep. But I sleep here. I eat here. I wake up here. I live here. Yeah. And true friendship to me is somebody that can help me in this point in my life. And I'm thankful for all the friends that I have. And I think that looks like, can you want to go grab a coffee with me? Or you want to go study in the library? And this just sounds like...
No, those are concrete things.
It's concrete, but from a more sense, like my roommate, right? Like, Like, do you need anything from the store? I'm going to the store. That's kind of basic levels. And to another level that I would go down to true friendship that I value is somebody to listen to you, somebody to help you out, non-academically. Mm-hmm. Forget about schooling. Mm-hmm. These are people that live with you, yep, that can always kind of offer a hand. My buddy Brian, I have no gas left in my truck and I have no money. Can you take me?
Many such cases.
Yeah. Can you take me to Shaw's? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt.
So we agree.
I think we would agree.
Because I think what you're saying is a concrete expression, what I said in abstract professor language, yeah, right? Which is that there are these people who see you. They recognize you. They see, yes, your needs, but also your goals. And they care about you. And notice that the other thing, and this Aquinas would say that, and Augustine would say this too, right? Seeing and recognizing and caring about the good of another person, even when it costs me, right? Yeah. Even when it's inconvenient, even when it means I might have to say no to myself. Yeah. Right now I'm speaking as a a spouse and a father, right? That's real friendship, because I mean anyone can care about me when it doesn't cost them, and you know what I mean? It's like I didn't need that anyway, right? Yeah. But that time and energy, that gas, whatever, that money, I could have used that on other things, but I see you, I care about you, and I want what's good for you, right? Can also mean no, right? If I see you and I care about you, I really see what's going on, I might say, Adam, no, I can't. Well, we've had this, right? Yeah. I can't do that for you because I don't actually think that's, you think you want it, you think you need it. Yeah. And I don't want to participate in that because I think that's actually going to be not for your good. And I because of how I see you.
And that's your decision. And that's anybody's decision.
Yeah. But notice how friendship has to include that too, because none of us has a corner on the truth of total corner on the truth of flourishing and happiness. We're trying to move toward it. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Professor Monroe.
Thank you.
It's
been great. Yeah, it's been really fun.
I appreciate it. And you guys heard it here, true friendship, and why this book is even important. Again, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.